Welcome to Notes of the Week with on the Sick of This Show with Nick Paro and my good friend Walter Rhein. Um, as everyone comes rolling in, please hit the heart. That helps with the algorithm, but it also starts us both with some extra hearts on our post show notes. With also feeds the algorithm. We gotta get our voices out there so other people can hear us too. Um, and Walter and I do a notes of the week every week. And so I wanted to give the chance for Walter to start this week again, and talk about it's our favorite note of the week or something that we think maybe needs more attention, and just get people's feedback on it too. So ask questions in the chat if you've got any. And I just got into the chat a bit ago, so I'll start saying hi and welcoming people on in. Good morning, Walter, and let's talk note of the week.
Yeah, this is really fun. I was thinking about it, and it is so important to kind of go through because the messaging is so important what we're dealing with right now, and it is having an emphasis, and you kind of see it change because things are nebulous. And I've always talked about this as a writer. You gotta kind of have the writer's nose for a story, and it's both what people are interested in hearing and learning how to take that interest and directing the public to what's the most important thing. And I talked yesterday with now she's former congressional candidate. She's suspended her campaign, but Laura Benjamin, and she and I are talking about getting more and more people from Congress from primaries. I urge everybody, Nick, you should be doing this too. Whoever's running in your district, everybody, just invite them on. I sent out a cold message today for another candidate, and she responded to me this morning. But
I
it's
totally agree with that.
Yeah, and just talk to them, get them on here, and then we can just kind of help influence and get more people interested in primaries. It really works. So what
Yeah.
Laura and I were talking about yesterday too was just the messaging. And Democrats are notoriously terrible at messaging. And I think it's because they were all A students, where all the Republicans were failing. So you have to tell the Republicans again and again and again and again. So they know this, they repeat. Democrats kind of think, well, I said it once, so now it's been said.
Yeah.
And the thing that needs to be said, and I've been repeating it, is just that the Republicans have shut down this government to protect pedophiles. The Republicans have shut down the government to protect pedophiles. We need to say that again and again and again. And I was talking it's Shane. I keep getting his
Yeah.
name messed up. I was talking with him on Friday about this, and it's just like Democrats. How can you lose this battle? All you have to do is point out that the other side is very openly covering up for pedophiles, child rapists, men who have brutally raped children. We just have to say that over and over. And the Republicans they get all haughty. If you make an accusation of them, even if it's something that they've done and they've been caught, they're just like, come on now. It's sort of like if you've been in an abusive relationship with somebody and they're just like, well, we talked about that. That's in the past. Why do you keep bringing it up? It's like, motherfucker, the thing you did is indefensible. And that's
Yeah.
why we're bringing it up. And you haven't been held accountable. And
Yeah. We're
so
gonna keep bringing it up until you feel shame for what you did.
absolutely. And that's the main one. We have to just keep messaging. The message of this week is that the government has been shut down because the Republicans are protecting pedophiles. And yes, like somebody said, it's abusive. Kat said that. Guys, you can't look yourself in the mirror if we stand by passively and allow this to happen because you got to understand that it's not done. That organization was never dismantled. They're still out taking kids. Kids are still disappearing. They're disappearing from the Ukraine. They're disappearing from the United States with the ethnic cleansing that's going on, where they're abducting anybody with dark skin here is getting abducted and taken. There's an international criminal court warrant out for Putin because he's been trafficking these children from the Ukraine. And it's just ongoing. The structure exists. And all these rich guys, I wrote another article recently about how I want to know if a business, whoever owns that business, is sponsoring pedophiles, if he's on the list, and I want to not support that business.
Yeah.
And it's not just about the president, it's about every single pedophile on that list. I mean, sometimes they divert the conversation and they try to make it about, well, he's on the list, so why does it matter? It matters because we have to have accountability for every single one of those guys on that list. We have to remove them from power. They have to have their assets taken away because they're guilty of the most brutal crimes in human history, the most terrible thing. And so we just have to keep hammering that message.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I think it's really important because you and I talk a lot about framing and how we talk about
Yeah.
things, the importance of using words in the right way. And I think this kind of it, is its framing is like we know most people a lot of people are starting to wake up and realize they have to talk to their family and friends and break the propaganda that people have been beaten into with other information. Like you can't just say it once and be like, "Oh, yep, they got it now." No, that's not how breaking through propaganda works. You have to repeat it over and over
Yeah.
and over and over again in the same level of terms, not condescendingly, but in the same level so that that people understand it over and over and over again. The Republicans do it really well. The fascist party in America does it really well because they have done a really good job. I hate saying good for anything they do. They've done a really remarkable
Effective.
job,
Yeah.
effective job at propagandizing words, making us afraid to use certain words in our dialects and the way that we talk about things. You cannot talk about the election being tampered with in any way, either physically or electronically or through vote buying or through intimidation and gerrymandering. All of that is basically off limits now because they have poisoned the word election interference and election stealing.
Yeah.
They poison the word insurrection now. Like they're doing it over and over again. Like we have to retake words. That's why I say I'm pro life because I
Yeah.
am. I'm an actual pro life human being. I like people living. I like human dignity. I think it's important that we have privacy and the right to
Yeah.
data privacy and the right to personal privacy and the right to bodily autonomy and a right to choose for our body, male, female, anywhere in between. Like, patriotism. They took over patriotism. They took over our flag. Kat, you said it really well. They grossly manipulated it. They grifted off of it into hate. And we need to take back words and meanings and ideas using good ones and saying the right things when people are doing bad ones. Like you say, the Republicans shut down the US government to protect pedophiles. They did not want to expose a pedophile, human trafficking, and money laundering scheme, so they shut down the US government to do so. Mike Johnson refuses to swear in a duly elected Arizona
Yeah.
representative to Congress, which is anti constitutional. It is his constitutionally mandated job to swear them in, not when to swear them in, not putting off swearing them in, to swear them in after they've been elected. That's
Yeah.
his job. He does not get to push that off. Do not let them build the narrative that they can push off swearing in newly
Yeah.
elected officials. No, they don't have that choice. When the American populace says no through the next year and a half and rebukes
Yeah.
fascism, do not let them say, do not let them poison by starting now. We use the right words, is they will steal the election by either shutting it down or refusing to swear in duly elected candidates. Mike Johnson is testing it right now to see how much he can get away with
Yeah.
pushback.
And the other thing you'll see Mike Johnson do is he'll say, "Well, we'll do that negotiation, but you have to open the government first." And it's just we have to push back and say, "You're a liar, sir. Sir, at the last you that's what you said the last time." And they capitulated to your demands and they said we'd negotiate, and then you had no negotiation whatsoever. And then if you call him a liar, he's going to give you that authoritarian, like, what you're doing is inappropriate. And we have to overcome that because we are deeply ingrained with that, to just back down on these asshole authoritarians. I mean, that's the whole patriarchal model, and they've leveraged that very, very effectively. You know, the fathers knows best, so you're not allowed to even question the father or the ultimate authority figure. And we just have to. The first step in this resistance just comes with that. And the ones that are best at it are people like Jasmine Crockett, who just are like, and Kamala Harris is very good at it too. The wonderful, brilliant members, the black women out there, they're the ones that you watch how they respond to all the messaging in the media. And that's been one of the joys of being here on Substack, having all
Yeah.
these conversations, talking with like Zuri Stevens and Allison Wilkes. Because I'll see how some people react to things, then I'll turn to them and they're just like, nope, absolutely fucking not. We're not gonna play this game. And it's just this reminder. It's like, oh yes, because they're the ones like the wonderful black women in our community are the ones who have been the targets of more oppression and abuse than anybody. And they see right through that bullshit. And it's like me as a white man, I do not have that ability to see through it like they do. So I turn
Yeah.
to them and say, what is the message? And then I turn back to my community and say, this is the message. And this is how we get some. By the way, I've got fruit in my cup in case people were wondering why I was chewing. I had this tea with fruit in it. So I took a drink. I'm like, chew, chew, chew. I'm like, oh,
I'm
that my own
chewing
fruit.
it's like army coffee where you have to chew it by the end and you've lipped half a pot of fucking beans and you're just like, I'm soaking this in for a while. If you were
Delicious,
never
I
in the
can't tell
army,
you.
that is a thing is you take the in MREs, they give you coffee pouches, the Insta coffee is most because you're not allowed nicotine or alcohol
Oh,
when you're in
okay.
basic training or AIT, which is advanced individual training for those who don't know. It's where you actually learn your job skills. Like infantrymen go to AIT, which is an extended boot camp where they learn advanced infantry skills to actually shoot, move, and communicate properly. Other people go into different courses. Some are very short, some are over a year long. The one I was in was half a year at the time and is now a year long course, which it should have been a year long course when I was in. Um, and I'm glad they extended it. But anyway, is you used to you would lip the coffee grounds and then put a little bit of your canteen water in just subtly every so often or just let your saliva do it and it's the only thing that would keep you awake in like the middle of the night fire guard while you're sitting there just
Oh, okay.
waiting in the
Wow.
barracks for the drill sergeant to possibly walk in.
Uh,
And you have to wake everybody up or have them be like, shush, shush, shush. Nobody knows I'm here. I'm going to sleep because I'm fucking tired. Because
yeah.
drill sergeants do that. Sometimes they go to sleep in their office because they're tired and they don't want anybody to know where they are. Shh, don't tell anybody. Um, anyway, but yeah, I got us sidetracked because lipping that dip of coffee, just you and you're chewing your coffee,
Girl,
gummy, your
it's
fruit
good.
gummy
Ginger
going.
tea with honey and everything in it. It's my throat. You need that ginger tea. But I want to
Yeah,
mention too, like you were talking before, taking our words back. And we always have to remember that our side is at a disadvantage because we're trying to build things. We're trying to help people. That's harder than hurting people. That's harder than destroying things. So have a little grace with yourself, first of all, because it's really easy to be
yeah,
frustrated. And I think another thing we need to do is just, you'll be amazed if you just start talking to people because we're just not our whole society's still in this code of silence. I mean, it's easy to get online and say, look, we got to hold pedophiles accountable, right? It's a lot harder to go in the grocery store and have that conversation because it's a little awkward. So I'm just telling people, it's like, go to the people that you trust that maybe aren't your close friends, but people you're like, you think you're in on a line with and say, are you afraid for your children right now with the way that they are? I mean, we got to release those Epstein files. Isn't it scary? I mean, everybody saw the movie Taken, right? That's the kind of pedophiles we're dealing with. It's these assholes that aren't like guys that pull up in a white van. These are these international crime syndicate. They're all like, these are like Bond villains with their private islands and billions of dollars where they take your kids and they're just disappeared forever. And if you just have conversations, quiet conversations with people you think are your allies, they'll go, and it's just you give them permission, then they talk to more people. And we have to, that's how we change hearts and minds. And it's through those, be safe always, and don't put yourself at risk. Don't put stuff on social media where you'll be found, but quiet
yeah.
conversations with people. You're going to find that everybody wants to talk about this. And once everybody in the room realizes we all think the same, then we can talk together in unison and drown out all the other side.
Yeah, and in all of this too is if you post on social media and you talk about the things that you talk to other people about, especially if they're people who have value in your life, don't out them. If they're learning and they're willing to learn from you too, and they're not being complete shitty human beings, like if you are trying to actively keep this person or in your life or build a new relationship with them and deconstruct the brainwashing, is don't out them specifically. Like don't give away who they are. Don't let don't like tell on them. Don't be a snitch on them. Like in my when I was growing up, we all learned the phrase snitches get stitches. Like that was what millennials said to each other for no fucking reason. None of us were gangster. Like white kids in Vermont going snitches get stitches. And none of us knew what snitches were. We barely knew what stitches were because like it was put some glue on super glue on it. You'll be fine. Um duct tape it, you'll be okay. Um but like we use these we I don't know where I was going with that, but like we we just have to get back to taking the front
Calling
foot
people
on all of
in.
this and
Yeah. Yes.
bringing people in without attacking, without outing them and hurting them if you care about them. Like if you care that they are in your life, do not out them when you try and help them. Like, I'm never going to name my brothers or my cousins or my brother-in-laws or my sister-in-laws or my nieces or nephews or parents or family members or wife or anyone. Like, I won't, hey, out.
Somebody's coming in.
Come on, get out of my room. Get out,
Sure.
little nerd.
Yeah, we gotta protect the innocent faces from the internet. So
Yeah,
I
like,
yeah,
I'm
in the
not
past
gonna,
we would invite our kids on, but not these days. Not these days. Let's
no.
keep them safe. So I agree with
Yeah,
that.
yeah, and if you're trying to actually help somebody, like, and you're trying to actually like win them over, do you want them talking behind your back?
Yeah.
Like, you go and talk to them and be like, "Hey, I'm actually going to talk to you and help you deconstruct." And then it's easy to say like, "Hey, I talk about a lot of this stuff publicly. I will never tell anybody about you." And
Yeah.
if you say that to someone, they'll be like, "Oh, awesome. Because, like, people know, like, people I
Yeah.
talk to know I talk publicly, but I'm always like, I'm never going to talk about you specifically. I'm never going to out you. I may use examples, but I'm
Yeah.
never going to out you personally because I care about you. Um, and that's how we bring people back into the fold is
Yeah.
s- but you reserve your empathy for those who deserve it.
I've seen a couple really nice comments. Kat said she posted a hysterical anti-Trump video. Her words were hysterical on TikTok and got 6,000 likes. I've posted my own fair share of hysterical videos too, and I think that's important. Sometimes people just need that release. But I've also found too that the conversations I have online are different than the conversations I have in real life. Don't try to recreate because there's a little bit of showmanship involved with these kind of conversations. That's
Yeah.
something to keep in mind. And I've also found I've mainly been talking with people that are left leaning like I am, and I'm getting so much better at tolerance for my side, which is really something important. And that's the calling in mentality where we don't like, oh, I agree, I disagree on this one little thing, so you're my enemy now. And it's like we agree on 99 out of 100 things. That doesn't mean that one thing we doesn't disagree on, we push each other away. We're all kind of learning that. And I keep
Yeah.
saying, like, I keep having these conversations with people from a diverse background, and it's always being mindful that their experience is radically different than mine. So even if I'm really sure about something, all my tools, all my observational tools are in the head of this white male. So it's like they're calibrated that way. We got to look at some tools that are in a head that's calibrated differently. And it's like, oh, geez, the results are completely, different and just as valid. And they give us those puzzle pieces in the larger reality that we're living in. And that equips us to handle those things more. So, yeah, practice your own tolerance, have grace with yourself, have grace with others. Don't put up with
Yeah.
the nonsense, though. The absolute racists, you
Yeah.
can cut them out. Yeah.
Yeah. And being tolerant doesn't mean that you accept intolerant beliefs. The paradox of tolerance means that if
Mhm.
you accept all beliefs as tolerable and that if you don't tolerate any belief, you become intolerant yourself, is a fallacy. You are allowed to not tolerate socially unacceptable beliefs, like pedophilia is wrong. Like that's a socially
Yes. Correct.
intolerable, unethical, amoral like act. Pedophilia is wrong. Period. Full stop. Like we shouldn't even be having to have this conversation over and over and over and over again. Is pedophilia is fucking wrong. Like it should be okay for all of us to talk about that. And it is. There's a reason so many people are talking about what's going on with the Epstein files, is because it offends every morally conscious and somewhat ethically aware human being. Because even those who have very, very few to no morals tend to not like pedophiles either. Like, go to prisons. What are the two categories that prisoners respect the least? Arsonists, because they don't think it's a crime, and pedophiles, because most of those other prisoners have kids
Yeah.
and they would
Uh-huh.
never touch a child themselves.
Yeah.
So even some of the most vile and murderous or unethical people in our country still have higher ethical values than the Republican Party. Period, full stop. The Republican Party is pandering to and
Yeah.
protecting pedophiles. And if they vote no or do not allow the discharge petition to move forward, it either means they are in the Epstein files or they're being paid to protect the Epstein files, which is just as bad because you are now part of the criminal conspiracy, the RICO, the organized criminal organization, racketeering organization that is money
Yeah.
laundering and human trafficking. You are part of covering that up. I would not want that to my name, but
Yeah.
Republicans
Correct.
seem to be okay with covering and being pedophiles. Where are all the pedophiles coming from in the news? It ain't the Democratic Party.
Right. Right. And they're getting really light sentences too, the ones that are getting caught. That's another sick thing. I
Or
wanna
they're
mention though what
being pardoned.
yes, ugh. I wanna mention what Kat wrote though, and she says that she's in Magaville, and most of them aren't hateful, they're paralyzed. They don't know what's going on, they're scared, and they don't wanna get in trouble because of retribution. And I think the argument there, because I often talk to people that are also scared, and being scared is reasonable. It's terrifying, but I always say there's no protection in compliance. We're in this now. And if you comply, it just means they're gonna come for you later with more power at that point. The only thing we can do is resist. The only thing we can do is fight back. It's the reality of our times. And so I think that's the thing we have to tell people. It's like, look, that's why we look for allies. That's why we have each other's backs. And that's why I've been reaching out to so many people and I've met so many people like Nick, and it's been wonderful. That's the silver lining of these last few months. I wouldn't have been doing this. I never thought I'd be on talking with people publicly like this every single
Yeah.
day. And it's actually everything is also gone. Like all those things that I, a lot of times I would kind of swallow my frustration with the Democrats because they're like, be quiet, we're going to be safe and we're going to win, and this isn't everything you want, but we want to win. And then it's like, well, everything you've said has been wrong and you lose, so now it's all off the table. We're not going to follow those those beliefs anymore. Like what the Democrats, we're going to be criticizing the Democrats because not because we dislike them or because we're part of the problem, like they like to say. We're criticizing them because their strategies suck and all they've done is lose, and they've been slowly giving up ground for all these years. And we need to demand a government that works for us. And we have to change people's hearts because a lot of people think that a leader is somebody who's just a fucking asshole, a self serving person who's cruel and vile, as if that guy's going to turn on and change his nature to protect us when times get tough. And we know that's not the case. And the American public, the American mind, has been indoctrinated to believe that that's what a leader looks like. And I'm still working how the messaging on this point is really critical. And this will endure beyond this election, where as whether I'm talking to my daughter about who she selects as friends, or who she selects as a romantic partner, or who she
Hmm.
selects as a politician, select the kind people, select the people with compassion and integrity, and this illusion of strength that is everything that these asshole MAGA Republicans show, we have to dismantle and ridicule. They deserve ridicule because they are not what they say they are. And yeah, just giving yourself permission to have a life of happiness and prosperity where you're treated as you deserve to be treated, where you shouldn't have to sit there and think I'm asking too much. No, damn it. You deserve to be treated well. You deserve
Yeah.
to be treated with kindness and have your feelings mean something and be heard. And that's what we have to change.
I also think too, like an easy one on this. I was listening to the Find Out podcast this morning, and they were talking about um how like they've been talking a lot about reframing the argument. Also, I talked with a couple of the guys who host the show,
Oh, good.
Tim Fullerton and Chris Goldsmith. Um, Chris comes on the Banner and Backbones Anti-Fascist Book Club fairly often. He's coming back this week, so look out, everybody. We're going to have Chris Goldsmith back. He is actually the founder of the Anti-Fascist Book Clubs. He wrote the playbook on how to do it and how to set them up and organize them. And he's been gracious enough to come on with us and host with us and be a part of our virtual one, which is really incredible. We've also had Stephanie Wilson on with us,
I
she's
love
a
her. She's great.
historian, um, and like yeah, like one of the things too is we need to be willing, and they were talking about it this morning, is we need to reframe the argument in a way that really sets the tone how MAGA and or Christian nationalists and or just those who are really steeped in the patriarchy understand. And that's power. And that's a power dynamic. And it feels awkward for us to do that because like I was very egotistical when I was younger. Um, and I learned to let that ego go because I pushed a lot of people away. And I wanted to make friends and not feel like I was imposing on them. But I learned how to tell stories that weren't ego driven and they were just stories and anecdotes about myself of like, hey, this is who I am. This is like, and I like sharing stories back and forth with people. And I learned how to talk to others on the same like level and not talk down to them when I was doing it. And it's, but at the same time, I'm not nice. Like I'm a very blunt person. I don't claim to be mean. I don't claim to be nice. I'm blunt. I'm somewhere in the middle. Like Nick Fuentes, fuck your feelings. Like
Yeah.
that, but not in the like, I don't care about your feelings. I'm just blunt. I don't words. Yeah, I'm going to use my emotions in my words. Like I'm not monotone and I don't just bleh, just strictly words out and word vomit, but I'm fairly blunt and direct on it. My dad taught me to be that way. Um, and it's not about not hurting your feelings because I explain things and I give information, but I've learned how to do it where I don't attack personhood about my,
Yeah.
like, say someone close to me who I don't understand why they still believe some of the things that they do, even with evidence that's going on. I don't attack them, their personhood, but I attack the idea that they're clinging to as a bad idea
Yeah.
and not them as a person. Like I never say that they are a bad person. I'm like, man, that idea sounds dumb. Man, why would that be the right idea? Like I've never heard it put that way. That doesn't make sense. But you you bully the bully without
Yeah.
belittling the bully. And I
What
think
you're
they are good at bullying and belittling. We need to be bullying without belittling.
That's the answer right there. What you're saying is it's so interesting because you're kind of going around all the things I've been talking about with Will Fullwood.
Mhm.
Americans are indoctrinated with white supremacy from birth. That's what it is. And it's all hidden. We don't talk about it. And it's funny because we talk, what are all these problems? Where all the hates come? The hate comes from the ideology of white supremacy. That's
Yeah.
the source of all hate in the United States. And I've been saying this for the last couple weeks because people, like with all this violence and all the right wing attacks on the left, every single act of violence in the United States comes from white supremacy. It doesn't matter if the person pulling the trigger, how he voted or she voted, the act of killing another person requires somebody to be indoctrinated in this belief that you're superior to others. And
Yeah.
and that's how they take lives. And
Yeah.
what you said, Nick, because everything you were just saying there, when you're like, because I had the exact same experience as you did growing up. I wanted friends, but why is it? Because I was kind of in my family relationship was you'd say the most sarcastic, hateful thing you could, and this was our expression of love. And I bet you're in a similar thing to that. Or even today, I'm really quick witted, and like you, I tried to turn it so in a classroom if a bully started picking on a kid, I'm like, I can use my skills as a bully to attack this bully. We're seeing
Hmm.
that on a larger scale now. That's what Gavin Newsom's kind of doing. He's still just a faker, though. It's really, and I keep forgetting her name. The one who's running is, you know her name, right? The one in her social
Y
media accounts. Yeah,
yeah,
it doesn't come to mind unless I write it down.
Camille Zapata.
Yes, perfect. She's the one who should be running.
Yeah.
But what we really need to do on a national level is just have classes where we protect our children from hate indoctrination through white supremacy. And so much of what America is, the American exceptionalism is a statement of white supremacy. Manifest destiny is a statement of white supremacy. That hatred where you condition yourself to think that you're better and everybody else is inferior or worse, that they're subhuman. Therefore, when you take their life, it doesn't matter. That's the ideology of hatred that destroys your life. It's what the Republicans are trying to normalize again. It has been America First is a white supremacy slogan. America Love It or Leave It is a Klan slogan. We are up to our eyeballs in this indoctrination of hate. And it's even, but and then we'll talk about it. It's like, gee, where's all this hate coming from? Because we're also indoctrinated not to mention that the United States is the birthplace of white supremacy. The origin it hasn't always been there, as people say. It developed over time. Like race-based slavery has only been around for about 500 years. White supremacy came along after the Civil War when Alexander Stephens, the vice president of the Confederacy, gave the cornerstone speech. If you've read that document, if you've read W.E.B. Du Bois' Reconstruction in Black America, and you learn that it was actually the black populations that won the Civil War because at some point they heard the news and they quit. They quit working, and it was won economically again. All these
Mhm,
wars are won economically. The war we're in right now, we don't have to, and the left knows this because we're educated. We don't use violence because we have
mhm,
something to go back to. We have families and jobs and educations. We're not like the right that can quit their minimum wage job and go attack the Capitol that day because, well, at least they get a bed to sleep in for the next 6 months, 6 to 12 months before probation kicks in, right? So,
yeah.
yeah, these are all the things that we just have to address and be open about.
Yeah. And so thinking about things we have to address and be open about, let's shift to my note a little bit. Same line of, as always, is shifting the narrative and perspective into truth and not propaganda. Is I wrote this note a little while ago, a couple hours ago, is reminder nearly 1,200 men just disappeared from the
Uh,
Florida death camp after a judge ordered the death camp's immediate closure. Nearly 1,200 men picked up for a civil offense, not criminal, are just gone. The U.S. government is covering up an atrocity, not only in Florida, but in other black sites around the country, too. Accountability must include the whole country and world, knowing what
yeah,
happened in each of these death camps. Then all of those responsible must be held. Res- Sorry, yeah.
yeah,
All those responsible must
accountable.
be held responsible for their actions or accountable for their actions. And I stand by what I said 3 hours ago. Is 1,200 men
Yeah,
disappeared, are either dead, deported, which is just as good as being dead at this point, or somewhere in
yeah,
between and lost and moved into black sites from the death camp in Florida.
awful.
When a judge decided ruled that it needed to be closed down, the government did something unexpected. They started to move people out very, very, very quickly.
Yeah,
And 1,200 of the nearly 2,000 are missing.
yeah.
That's a
Yeah.
majority, folks. That's a big majority. That's over half of the people who went into that camp are just gone and missing, and
I
there's
want to
no
quit.
accountability.
I want to quit people to talk about this too. And this is one where, honest to God, everybody who's tuned in, thank you again. And it's far more important than the things we talk about. You go think about and talk about with people in your community. That extends the reach hugely. Be safe as always. But I want to equip you and how to talk about this because what you're going to encounter is that the right's going to just deny it. Oh, that didn't happen. And that's what we have to deal with in the United States. You know, people deny the atrocities of slavery, they deny the birth farms, they deny all these just horrible things. Deny, deny, deny. So lately I've just been saying to people, well, you're a Holocaust denier then, because you're deny. All you do is deny. Do you
Mhm.
also deny the Holocaust? And usually that gets them. Some of them do. Then you just kind of know what you're dealing with. But if it's a person who becomes shocked when you say that, when you accuse them of that, says you're using the same strategies that's used by, the Nazi sympathizers, white supremacists everywhere. They just deny. We can look at the facts right now. We have these facts. They're missing.
Mhm.
It's verifiable. Go check it out. But your denial puts you among that side, of the Holocaust deniers. That's what you are. That's the example you are for your
Yeah.
kids.
Yeah.
And you have these conversations with people, that makes a difference.
Yeah. Or even like Carrie D said in there is Trail of Tears. Do you deny that the Trail of Tears happened? That
Yeah.
or do you deny that that America in our expansion west genocided the entire native population in the US?
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
if you
And they'll
do,
say that
then
makes us feel
sure.
bad.
Yeah, oh, that makes us feel bad. Okay, well, then the Germans learned to live with the fact and feel bad and move forward with the fact that they killed millions of people during World War
Yeah.
II in a Holocaust, and they learned how to cope with that. They learned how to move forward from that. You know what they did? They held people accountable.
Accountability. Yep. That's the word.
They did the one thing that we never have been able or wanted to do in the US, which is hold racists and bigots accountable for
Yep.
socially unacceptable and amoral behavior.
Yep.
Because we have decided that it's just because it's free speech doesn't mean it cannot be limited. We limit speech in this country in a lot of ways. And no, I'm not talking about limiting the ability to say words. I'm talking about actually holding people accountable when those words turn to actions and you become a registered member of a terrorist organization and hate group like the Ku Klux Klan. You should be treated as such, and your words should be treated with the weight of incitement. If you go and say, "Oh, we're going to go burn down a historic black church," and say a historic black church then gets burnt down, or you should go euthanize homeless people, just kill them,
Yeah.
Brian Kilmeade.
Mhm.
That that is white supremacy. If we
Absolutely.
held people accountable for the words that incite violence the way that we're supposed to in this country, we would not be here.
Yeah.
Period. Full stop.
And this is such an important message, and it's something we need to emphasize more that, this applies again beyond politics. This is just how you live your life. There's plenty of things in my life that I've done wrong. And I think our backgrounds align with this, where my dad was a person who never practiced accountability. He did something bad, he never would say, "Oh, I made a mistake." And this, I mean, it's as simple as that as a parent. And I make myself do this. If the kids come up or they notice that I did something wrong or I notice, I apologize to them. And it's just so important. I think maybe the most important thing you can do as a father is apologize to your kid and show them that authority has to be accountable and authority
Yeah.
has to say, we are not these. And that's how we dismantle the patriarchy, because we have these guys that just, oh, I did something wrong. We just all are forced to be gaslit and ignore it. And
Mhm.
and the and when you feel bad about having done something, because that's true with me too. It's like I'd rather just forget about things. There's things, there's not all these terrible things that I've done, but there's some things that I've done. I wish I could take them back. And I don't forget about them. I remember them. And I remember
Yeah.
them in those other moments of weakness when I'm having a bad day. And I remember to moderate my behavior then, because I don't want to repeat that thing that I did in the past that I wish I could forget, but I can't. You can't forget those things. And so this is the argument we need to say when people are saying, well, we shouldn't teach this history that makes white kids feel bad about the past. We absolutely have to teach that, because if we're not teaching accountability, you're not teaching decency. You're not teaching any pathway to prosperity. Because the only way we can be decent human beings and happy human beings who care for our loved ones is if we recognize our mistakes, no matter how bad they are, and we try to make amends for them. And even if the people that we've hurt don't forgive us, we have to just continue to try to do our best to make it right, even if it's impossible to make it right. We take
Yeah.
that task on till the end of our day.
Yeah. And it's one of those things too where it's like you just said, it's like taking accountability starts with taking personal accountability. You can't demand accountability from other people if you're not willing to be accountable for your own actions. We also need to, like Beth just said, is learn to forgive ourselves for things that we didn't do or slights that we think we caused that we made up in our own heads. Like,
Yeah.
we do not know what other people are thinking unless they tell us. You can see by facial expressions and you can understand this is possibly what they're thinking. This is the response that I got. And I know that's a negative response or a positive response or a neutral response. Like, we all know these things. We all have cues for ourselves. No matter who you are, we've all trained ourselves to know these cues about other people. It's how we are able to interact in any way. Some people have a very, very, very hard time with it. If you are non-functioning autistic, you're going to have a really hard time understanding social cues because you have a very low functionality as an adult, and that's okay. Like, there's nothing wrong with that. Other people then need to take the onus and accountability to modulate their responses that are appropriate to another adult who might have a disability that, if it's very clear that they do and they don't understand, you can't get mad at someone because they have a physical disability or mental disability that doesn't allow them to process information in the same speed or way. Like, you, as the other adult, part of being an adult is taking accountability for your responses to people. I did it last week. Like, I made a parenting choice that I am like immediately took accountability for after doing.
Mhm.
And what that means is never doing that again and apologizing and showing that that apology meant something by continuing to improve on it and forgiving myself in the process because I am now learning and moving forward in it. If you're willing to do that, it's easy. Like, it's easy to take accountability. You don't beat yourself up all the time.
There's the forgiveness issue is really interesting too. And I've been talking with Will Fullwood a lot, and just we've been just kind of trying to map out how the mechanism of white supremacy works in the United States because it's so deceitful and it sneaks in there. It's planted into your mind without your awareness. And so he even says, and Will Fullwood is a black man, and he says he's like he never Bruh, he can't really hold it against people to be indoctrinated with white supremacy because that's the whole country. That's just what happens. And we're all on this journey too, right? Like till age 10, you're just figuring out basic things and motor skills and things like that. And then from 10 to 20, you're kind of figuring out your sexuality and all these things. And underneath all that are these kind of hate indoctrinations that we're subjected to. And so when it comes to forgiveness, you can say, well, I did this thing 25 years ago, but I was in this just horrible situation and I'd been pressured to think these behaviors were acceptable behaviors. I've renounced those behaviors since then and I'm trying to make amends for it. But it's like you have to understand you're making these decisions when you're not in a place where you're in full control of your own psyche. And I'm
Mhm.
50 and I'm still like only now it feels like okay, it kind of feels like I'm doing the things I want to do. And a lot of it too just has come from having kids. I was kind of reflecting on that, and it was
Yeah.
just my kids were born, and this was the incentive to be a better person just because it's like, well, there's no hatred there, and it's like a lot of times you're reacting to hate, and we're told human beings are innately hateful. It's not the case. It's put into them. This hate is indoctrinated into our kids, and if you don't put
Yeah.
it in there, like don't be sarcastic around your kids and they'll never be sarcastic to you. And then you see these other parents, they're mad at their kids because they're disrespectful. And it's like, that's what you taught your kids to be like, if you didn't want them to be that way, or and now if you want to remove that, it starts with you saying, this behavior is wrong. I'm sorry. I take accountability and move on.
Yeah.
Somebody left another great message, though, too, where she was just asking about how she was appreciating the strategies for having these conversations, and somebody at her work, this was Bridget, she said somebody at her work said that they're like not into politics. Well, politics is into you, these things that are going around. They don't care if you're into it or not. There's no protection in not knowing what's happening. So you
Yeah.
better be aware, and you do have more power than you believe.
Yeah, and it's easy to also, even though people like to say, "Oh, I'm not into politics." One, that's lazy. Well, just like you said, everything is political in some way. That being said, you can talk to it without saying political words. You can talk politics without making it sound political. Like,
Yeah.
let's bring up what's going on in the government shutdown in a non-political way. Here's what's about to happen is this government shutdown is over Republicans pulling funding that will cause a doubling to tripling in premiums by cutting ACA, the Affordable Care Act, or Obamacare, if you still call it that, but the Affordable Care Act, and it's going to triple all of our premiums. Yep. And what it is the all of ours, but also your premiums. It's going to triple your premiums specifically. You, like you friend of mine, you cousin, you family member, you person that I'm speaking to specifically. You want to make it not sound political, just remind them of the fact that their health insurance premiums are going to triple because the federal budget that is being passed right now or had been passed or is being continued and they're going to take away your health care by tripling your premiums, not everybody else's, your premiums, because when there's more sick people and less people being covered, premiums go up.
Mhm.
End of story. Your pocketbook is now impacted. And people understand that. The thing, like, we talk about American exceptionalism and
Yeah.
like this very egocentric mentality in America. Well, then make it egotistical for them, make it about them.
Yeah.
Like, make the argument specifically about that person that you're talking to. That's politics, anyways. That's how you win debates and stuff, is you get somebody to feel why your argument is better. And like you said, we win people over with words, not with violence. I don't
Yep.
threaten you that if you don't believe what I'm going to say, I'm going to then kill you. I say, if you don't believe what I'm going to say, that's your choice.
Yeah.
Then we move on.
I'm I'm finding that, like I said, because a lot of people they feel they have this obligation to go and change minds, like somebody who's a staunch MAGA, and don't even talk to those people. I'm finding the most productive conversations are coming from the people that I thought were kind of similar, and like you're saying before the other earlier. I one of my the basketball coaches, and I just happened. I was like, I didn't know if there was tension with her, but I saw her the other day, and I was just like, "How are things going?" And I gave her a pat on the arm, and it just turned into a hug by her, I was, like, gonna give her a pat, and then she gave me a hug. And it was just, like, these little moments like that where it's like, "Oh, I'm imagining conflict that's not there," you know? And a
Mhm.
lot of that is because we are all under so much stress right now, and then you're just like and it's just so much easier to just make a little gesture of kindness, and it just instantly is taken care of, give people those opportunities. But and also remember too, there's times you'll even if you have the perfect messaging, you're not gonna get through to people. So don't worry about that. You only worry about yourself. And one of the big things with messaging, and the Democrats are awful at it. And it's this idea of there's this book called Don't Think of an Elephant. If I say don't think of an elephant, what's the first thing you think of? You think of an elephant. And
Yeah.
that's why we have to fix. And that's why, with regard to this, the Republicans saying, well, the left causes violence. I'm just apologetically saying all violence is because of the right. All violence
Yeah.
is because of the right, because it goes from the white supremacy. Because if you're like, the left isn't responsible for much violence, all they hear is the left is responsible for violence. And
Yeah.
so we have to get rid of that. Let's be fair. And it's all those not all arguments. Those
It,
not all arguments come in there all the time, right? Those are
mhm.
deployed to just deflect away from a productive conversation. You could say, yeah, the ones that aren't, I'm not worried about. I'm only worried about the ones that are. That's why I'm talking about this. And the ones that aren't, like, that are protected by "you're not all," they should be on my side because 'cause we're trying to fix things, right? So,
Yeah.
change your messaging, be unapologetic, direct your accusations where the crimes are, and the word don't use that to say, or "It's not this group," because the second you invoke the name of the group you're trying to protect, you make your audience equate that group with the wrongdoing, you're trying to denounce.
Yeah, it's the idea of stooping down to the level, but not acknowledging the argument. Like
Yeah.
that's where Democrats, I think,
You
fail.
need help.
Tend to fail the most is they're starting to see that they can stoop to the same level, but they stoop to the level and then they still acknowledge the whole argument. They don't
Yeah.
switch the argument. It's like they're starting to do it though. Like the shutdown, you can see the opinion is pretty consistently this is the Republicans' fault. The Republicans shut the government down because
Yeah.
Democrats are staying on a single message, which is, yeah, the Republicans are in the majority. They control the House, the Senate, and the White House. They shut the government down to take away your health care and to raise your premiums and protect the Epstein files. That's it. That's the message that they are right now on. You know what? That resonates with people because it touches you at home. Most people go, oh, I know about the Epstein
Yes.
files, pedophilia, that's gross. That viscerally hits you.
Yeah.
And then they go, oh shit, my healthcare premiums are tripling. I didn't think
Yeah.
my healthcare premiums were going to be impacted. No, 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 this isn't what I voted for. And when they say this isn't what I voted for, don't go, yeah, it fucking is. Go,
Yeah.
no, you're right. It's not. That's not what he told you, was it? He said he was
Yeah.
going to lower prices. I talked to
Yeah.
someone I know very close to me. I talked to someone close to me that I know who's very opposite end of the spectrum, and he's someone that I question why they believe in certain things. But I'm not going to attack them for it. But you know what? We agree that you cannot trust a single thing that this current administration, not other administrations, but this current administration is saying because
Yeah.
they lie about everything. And that person acknowledged that, and that's the fundamental key. Because when you can get on that common ground, you can then start taking their arguments and breaking the ideas apart. And you can go, see, we agree on this. We agree on this. You agree with me that pedophiles are bad and that our government is lying to us and that it appears that they're covering up for pedophiles. Okay, we're on the same footing. Which party is in power and which party is doing it? Oh, the Republicans? You
Yeah.
voted
And it's
for
going to
that.
take,
You voted for that Republican. Was this really what you voted for? No. Oh,
yeah.
I didn't want that either. You were lied to. It's okay. I've been lied and propagandized too. Let's go forward together
Yep.
and fight it. That's all they need. They need someone who can just say, let's do it together.
Yep. And it might take multiple times too. And don't you have to be tenacious and you have to keep bringing it up and talk about it again and again and again.
Hmm.
And on this argument of, not using their or going down to their level, that's always kind of misused. And we're different in one way because we're telling the truth. They're telling lies. I mean, if we're using harsh arguments, but it is a fact. It's a verifiable fact. There's nothing wrong with making that statement. I always like the example of, you know, if there's a hammer and a Republican uses it to brutally murder somebody, that doesn't mean we shouldn't take a hammer and use it to build a house. The hammer's not the problem, it's how it's used. And these
Yeah.
arguments that are out there, we have to use the strongest arguments we can that will protect people. Because if we put all these bizarre parameters in place, like we can't do that because that makes us like them. No, we have to use the strategies that are most effective at bringing about, you know, humanitarian ends. That's what we
Yeah.
have to do.
Yeah.
So,
So, Linda, you bring up a good thing, a good question is you say,
uh,
yes, wondering how to rebuild trust in government. Government doesn't work without it. You're 100% right. Government does not work without trust. I'm not trying to rebuild trust in government. I'm trying to rebuild trust in the people who run our government. When we have trust back in those people themselves, when we elect people we trust, we'll have
yeah,
trust in the government again. That's like there it's not about the government, it's or the institutions themselves. Those are not self-sustaining. It's the trust, it's the public trust that we place on our public servants to do the will of the voter and do the right thing. And if we don't hold them accountable for doing the wrong things, then they break our trust over and over. When we do not hold them accountable for their
right,
actions as public servants, they continue to break our public trust. So when we hold them accountable,
Yeah.
we will have trust again because then they won't do shit that's unaccountable and untrustworthy. And that starts with one, trusting ourselves and holding ourselves accountable for when we do things that are not the best,
Yeah.
forgiving ourselves when we learn and grow from them, encouraging others to learn and grow from them, and then holding people accountable in real time. Like the ICE agent who rammed the woman's car in Chicago and shot her, got out of the car and shot her, and they claimed that she was gonna shoot them. The body cam footage shows the ICE off Gestapo agent getting out of the car and provoking her and then shooting her. And she didn't go to a hospital. She got found by an ambulance. I think she drove herself to
Wow.
like a vet or something or an auto shop. So their whole story is a lie. You know how we stop incidents like that from happening again? You hold the agents and leadership accountable both. It's not good enough if she sues or the state sues just those individual agents. That must include the chain of leadership that gave the orders and authorization for that actions. Kristi Noem, Stephen Miller, President Trump, Vice President Vance.
Yeah.
The chain of command is responsible for those actions. And on another accountability point, and I'm going to put this out into the zeitgeist because it needs to be said. If you think that Donald Trump cannot be held accountable for his actions because he currently has presidential immunity, you have bought into a lie. The Supreme Court made up presidential immunity out of whole cloth. Nothing in the Constitution states that a president has immunity for any actions as the president. We gave the speech and debate clause. Yes, you have speech and debate clause. That holds you slightly above so that you can actually fully speak and debate an issue, not spew hate and bigotry. He also does not have immunity when that ruling is overturned. We have had monumentally bad Supreme Court rulings overturned.
Yeah. Yeah.
So do not buy the lie that President Donald Trump, dictator of this fake fascist regime in America,
Yeah.
will never be held accountable. He can and will if and when we say that the Supreme Court must overturn this atrocious ruling because they can. They've done
Yeah.
it. Dred Scott is a great example. Like Plessy versus Ferguson, there are examples in our history where we overturned stupid precedent from before.
Yeah.
We
Yeah.
can do it again. And do not buy the lie that a felon can give pardons. Felons cannot pardon other felons
Yeah.
for
Yeah.
felonious acts that are happening. And anti constitutional acts are an abuse of the pardon power because the pardon power was never intended to forgive anti constitutional acts
I want to
or be
say
used
too,
on this scale. That should be abolished.
and I want to say
Get rid
too,
of it.
just this idea of restoring faith in the government, because there's been just that propaganda campaign that Americans should never, that the government is bad, the government should be dismantled, and we have to just counter that argument with corporations abuse us all the time. We need to have, and we trust the government to have the military, and the military is there to protect us. We need to demand that the government protects us too. We need to demand that if a bank defrauds us and steals us, who do we turn to? It has to be the government, right? And so there's a lot of work in that concept. Somebody asked that question before, and we're going to have to. And it starts with what you said. We elect people that are good people,
Mhm.
and like you look at all these wonderful people, people like Stacey Abrams, who are very sacrifice their own personal gain. Biden was this way too. He could have used the government to enrich himself. He didn't. He used the government to enrich the population of the United States. There's no reason we
Until the
shouldn't ask
very
him.
end. Until the very end, when he did not give up the power that he said he would to pass it on to the next generation and let us walk straight into fascism. And I
Well, he
do
gave it
not
up.
let him.
Yeah.
I do not get it, put him off the hook on that one. He should have never run for a second term. He let his ego get in the way of doing his constitutional duty to protect the American people. He let his
He
own
did.
personal ambitions get in the way.
Yeah.
And yes, politicians all have a little bit of egotism and nepotism or narcissism. They kind of have to. Like, you have to be able to talk really proudly about yourself and what you are specifically going to do. And that's really hard for a lot of other people who aren't really ego driven. He let his ego get in the way. And it
Yeah. But and
cost us, and it's
yeah.
going to cost us a lot. But it's at the same time, we may have needed to get here anyways. And the only way forward often is through. And
Well, let's say
so
too, though,
we're
too.
here
Let's give
now.
him credit
So
because he did it. He ultimately did step aside. So he did it late. He deserves criticism for doing it late, but he also did ultimately make the decision that was that served the nation over himself. You're right. He could have done it better. That's absolutely, he deserves those criticisms, but he also did step aside. He gave up the power. And we just see all these examples of good people, and we can elect good people that aren't just, and just our whole fixation with billionaires and like, maybe I can be a billionaire. That means you're saying, to hell with everybody else in the world. That's what that means. And
yeah.
we have to change in our heart and just say, let's select people we can trust with power who aren't going to exploit or be corrupt and who are going to use that to help people that need help. That's all
What
we have to
we
do. That's how we
what
start.
what we need is a president and congressional leaders who are willing to give up power that they have been extrajudiciously granted
And
or
there are people
passed
like that.
over. And there
Yes.
are people like that. There are politicians out there like that who will do that. There are people like Graham Plattner in Maine who is advocating for people policies and talking. He was part of this example all morning was he's reframing the argument, and it was about the current shutdown. And some woman asked him, well, what I heard was the Democrats did it to prevent illegals from getting health care, and I don't want illegals getting health care. And the crowd shouted her down, and he was like, hold on, how would you feel if you were lied to and propagandized, and then everyone in a room just started shouting at you and told you how dumb you were? Like, do you think that's helpful to her? Do you think that's helpful to you? And he was like, no, she's been lied to, just like all of us have been lied to about everything going on. And we need a change. And I can be that change by doing this, and this with other people. Like, it's not I can be that change and I can be it alone. That's the difference. Democracy is I can be that change together. And we're over time. Just a couple minutes over. Walter, I want to make sure I give you back some time here. Let everybody know real quick where they can find you before you drop off.
Yeah.
And then we'll see each other again next week, I believe. Yeah.
Absolutely. I'm at I'd rather be writing. The paid subscriptions help so much. You can scroll down to the bottom of any of my articles, and there's a variety of discount tiers. So anything you can pay is great. But if you're just there to leave comments and share, that's wonderful too. And most importantly of all, just talk to people. Bring them onto Substack here. The more people on here, the better. I'm interviewing a lot of candidates for various political offices. I want people excited about the primaries. The more people that vote, the better it is, and our better chance of removing the politicians that don't work for us and putting in the good ones that we know are out there and that will work for the people. They're kind, generous people. We deserve to have that kind of government. So thank you, Nick. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Walter. Thank you, everyone. Please subscribe to Walter. Subscribe to me at Sick of This Shit Publications. Have a great day. And as I always say, friends, let's stop being sick of this shit. Let's start doing this shit. I'll see
Awesome.
y'all later. Thanks,
Bye
everyone.
bye.